Hello, my name is James Woodford, and I'm so blessed to be able to share this with you today. I have a story that is truly, I think, unique, because for someone that had never believed in God, not truly, to suddenly realize and be made to realize that heaven is real, it exists, and Jesus is real. I want you to know something. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a preacher, I'm truly not. I'm just someone that was chosen to have this incredible experience. Having spent a good part of my life as a pilot, a businessman, I was at best ambivalent about God. And 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, with complications from an illness, I died. I was clinically dead and saw something truly incredulous, something that I never dreamed could ever be real. For me, I'm sad to say, Christians were someone who, I don't know, I just couldn't understand. If it wasn't in a technical manual, how can you believe it? That was the pilot side of me. I had to see the technical issues behind something to truly understand it. And what I realized now, of course, was I had no faith. So if I'm not a pastor and a preacher, then what am I? Look, I'm just a traveler. All my life I've traveled the globe. And then I have this incredible experience, and I traveled to a dimension, a world, that those of you who have always believed, you know exists. And I ask myself every day, why me? Why not some deserving follower of God, someone who had devoted their life to his teachings, to the teachings of Jesus? Why me? And I remember one evening saying that, and there was this wonderful pastor who was over 90 who put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Jim, don't ask that question. You're simply living proof that Jesus loves a sinner." And it's a claim to fame that I don't enjoy, but I understand now what he meant. Because I have been forgiven. I've been profoundly changed. I've been renewed. And so I want to share with you this journey. And it is called Heaven, an Unexpected Journey. I wish with all my heart that I had discovered this at the beginning of my life. But I look back now on my life, and I see the hand of God on the narrow escapes that I had as a pilot. All the things that I thought I survived because of my own skill. But you see, God works in wonderful ways in everyone's life. You just have to recognize it. You just have to see his hand guiding you. And I had to live most of my life before I realized that the hand of God was upon my life. And so I pray with all my heart that this story will be a blessing for you. I was born in the province of Newfoundland, Canada, and in the northeast. When I was a young boy growing up in the 50s and 60s, how many people got around was by small aircraft because of the impassability of the roads and so on. But so I grew up watching these planes, and I developed a love for aviation very early on. And to me, it was just such an incredible thing that to be able to fly above the earth and to look down. And so I was intrigued by it, I was in love with it, and I think most kids enjoy aircraft, but I was truly taken by it, and I read and absorbed everything I could about aviation, and helped out when I could at the seaplane dock, and just getting completely immersed in aviation. And eventually, when I got old enough, my mom, bless her heart, and I think all mothers know the longing in their children's hearts, but our financial circumstances were not good. My father had died when I was 2. My mother was widowed in her early 20s with 2 young children. But somehow she arranged for me to go to flying school. And I remember as though it were yesterday, the evening she sat me down and said, "Jimmy, I know what's in your heart, and we've managed to put it together for you." And so that began my lifelong love affair with aviation. And I was blessed to be able to advance fairly rapidly, not just from the bush planes and water bombing and crop dusting, and I was right on the tail end of the old-fashioned way of flying. And you must remember, in those days, there was no GPS, there was no cell phones. It was dead reckoning navigation in the far north, and it was a challenge, but I loved every minute of it. And I tell young people every time I speak to them that if you are blessed enough in life to do something that you love to do, that you get up every morning with this longing in your heart to do it, then God has already blessed you. And in my ignorance and my stupidity, I never realized the blessing that He had bestowed upon me. I do now. And so I had an interesting career. And in addition to that, I began investing in businesses and was quite good at it. And I seemed to live a charmed life. And because no matter what circumstance I met with, I seemed to prevail over it. Little did I know it was the hand of God directing me to this moment in my life. As I said earlier, I was at best ambivalent about God. But I do know this, that as the great Billy Graham said, when you come to the end of yourself, you come to the beginning of God. That's what happened to me. I recognized that I was blessed in not just flying, but and the business world, but one of the greatest blessings was meeting my wife, Lorraine, and she is the light of my life. And I say in the dedication of this book, I realize now she was my first angel. And I'm so grateful to God for having her in my life. Because you see, Lorraine always had what I lacked, and that is a strong belief in God and in the goodness of God. She and her sisters, who would play a big part in what happened to me later, had a deep and abiding love of God. And I would remain silent, but I would in my silence, I would think, how can intelligent people believe in these old legends written by ancient men in dusty old books? Folks, I tell you this, the Bible is the operator's manual of your life. It is how to live your life. And I read it and study it every day now because I'm trying to understand as much as I can so that I will no longer be ignorant in the ways of God. You know, it's interesting. I seem to have done it in reverse. Most people are raised Christian, they go to church, they have a loving Christian family, they come up through, they study the Bible, it's part of their education, and they eventually become involved with the church and live their life according to the Word of God. Then they pass and they go to where they've always believed they would go. I've done it backwards. I went to heaven, and now I'm coming back and learning everything in the reverse direction. So, my scriptural knowledge is limited. I have no knowledge of theology, but I'm trying hard every day to learn. But I do know this, that God, I think, chooses the most unlikely candidates to have this experience. And I know now that I am certainly not alone, not by a long shot. When I speak to people, many times people will come up to me very shyly and say, Jim, 10 years ago, I had a heart attack. I saw angels. Or I died on the operating table. I saw my mother. Or I saw God. Or I saw Jesus. And many people are reluctant to come out and talk about that. But you see, I had to come out and talk about this because I stood in front of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and He gave me a commission. He gave me a commission to go and tell my brothers and sisters of the wonders we have shown you. And so today, that's what I want to do. As I said, I led a charmed life. But I was filled with the need for material things. I had a collection of British sports cars. We had a large yacht. Everything, the beautiful horses, everything that one would think epitomized the classic American-Canadian dream of success. And yet, and I never admitted this openly, I would lay awake in the middle of the night and I would have this yearning inside of me, this feeling that, is this all there is? Is this all there is? And I would interpret that feeling as, well, I must need a faster car or a newer Jaguar or a bigger plane or a bigger boat. And I'd go and I'd buy those things and I'd play with them for a week, and guess what? The yearning would be back. The yearning would come back. Do you know what that yearning is? And I think if you're honest with yourself, most of us will admit to this feeling, is this all there is? What that feeling is your soul wanting to go back to the source from which it came, God's light. In each one of you, and I was shown this, in every one of you, you have no idea how truly special you are. That in each of you is the light of God, the light of God. But with life and in the throes of making a living, trying to compete with the next person, we allow that light to get dim. And my light, I think, was almost extinguished. But yet, God in His mercy stands forever ready to take you back. Just as a raindrop falls on a mountain and changes into rivulets of water that eventually become small streams and then brooks, rivers, and flows to the ocean, that raindrop is going back to its source. Your light within you wants to go back to God's light. It wants to go back to its source. And it is miraculous how that can happen if you allow Jesus into your life in a personal way. You don't even have to tell anyone about it. Just call out to Him. Say, I need you in my life. I want you in my life. You know, my favorite picture now is that one of Jesus knocking on the wooden door, quietly hoping the door will open. Jesus knocked on the door of my heart all my life, and I ignored Him. And I am so sorry for that. So desperately sorry that I ignored Him. But it's never too late. That's the wonderful thing. It's never too late to go back to Him. He stands waiting and waiting and waiting for your heart to return to Him, for your light to go back to His light, and then forever someday to be part of His light for all of eternity. And that is such a perfect message that he gives us. So I really believe with all my heart and soul that the opportunity for all of you to sense this light within you, and those of you who have already know the light is there, I'm not telling you anything new, but I speak to the folks that don't feel the light of God in their life. It can change you dramatically. You see, I now know something miraculous. We are not human beings with a soul. We are souls inhabiting a human body. We must remember we've got it backwards. And once you realize that your being is your soul, not this physical part of you, the light within you is who you are. And you have the opportunity to join that light with the light of Christ. Never again will you feel alone, will you feel abandoned. And now I live every day of my life feeling that light within me. And the first conscious moment that I have when I awaken every morning is to reach for that feeling inside of me. Because if I don't ever feel it there, I don't know what I'll do. But I do feel it there. And I'm so eternally grateful for that. I mentioned earlier that I'm convinced that many people have had these interactions with God and with Christ. And I really believe with all my heart, again, that you can do so much good when you bring God into your life. You'll find that people sense something different about you. I have people that have come to hear me speak for the 8th and 9th time. And I joke with them that once you've heard me over 5 times, you automatically go to heaven because you've already done your penance listening to me 5 times. But the point is this, that and my wife says this as well, I am profoundly changed. And what it is I have the peace of God within me. And people come to me to hear me because they say, when I'm around you, Jim, I feel peaceful. They're not feeling my peace. They're feeling the peace of God. And that peace is available to every single person that opens their heart to Jesus, that gives him the opportunity to come into their life. Because as I keep saying, it is never, never too late to come back to Christ. It must be contrite. You can't just say it in a wishy-washy way. You have to feel it. It could be something as personal as just kneeling by your bed, alone at night, or in your car on a long drive, just saying, can we talk? Can we speak? And people say to me, I pray, but I don't hear God speaking to me. Well, look, if you're expecting to hear the voice of Charlton Heston or the wonderful Morgan Freeman, it's not going to happen. God speaks to you in your own voice, which begs an honest question. How do I know when it's God and not just my ego or my mind or my consciousness? Believe me, you will know. Because when God speaks to you, you don't hear it here. You hear it here. And I remember when the angels spoke to me, it wasn't just a matter of hearing them. It was like their knowledge and their intensity filled me. I heard them from within me. And that's what you will hear once you commit your life to God. I know that for many who are facing difficult issues, and look, I have no idea why bad things happen to good people. I just don't. I don't think any human being does. But I do know this. That if you have this relationship with Jesus Christ and the Father, no matter what you face in your life, whether it's illness, whether it's a failed relationship, whatever may be burdening your heart, you will get through it so much easier, with so much grace, if you have the light of God within you. I emphasize this so much, I don't mean to be repetitive, but I want you to feel, to honestly quiet your heart and get a feeling for the love of God. And you will be amazed at what will happen in your life. I know that this isn't tremendously different from anything you haven't heard before, and it's not, but it is my experience. And I feel the profound, as I say, the profound change within me. I see it within the people who are around me, and I am ever so grateful. So, I'm hoping that, as I said, as we go into this story a little deeper, that we will have an opportunity to explain to you what you're about to see on my journey to heaven, because it is stunning to realize that a world exists, that it is, as I said, not myth, not legend, not some story. It really exists. Another world, another dimension that is so amazingly beautiful and peaceful. And I'm going to ask you as we go forward with the story to take off your earth hat and put on your heaven hat, because you must, as we go ahead with this, suspend everything you've ever been taught about the laws of physics, spatial references, time, because everything is completely different in God's home. Completely different in a wonderful way. And I pray also that for those of you that have lost a loved one and miss them every single day, that this will be a blessing to you, because you will see them again. You will see them again. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what happens when you do. So that is such a comfort to people, or to parents who have lost a child through tragic circumstances or disease, that when they eventually get to heaven, if they follow what I'm suggesting, that beautiful child will greet them in heaven, and they'll be forever together. And I have had so many wonderful experiences of people that have come up to me and said, what a blessing it is to know that I will see my daughter who passed away, or my son who was killed in a car accident. Because we have become people that are hopeless, in the sense that we've given up hope. And this message is one of hope. It's one of despair, my despair. It's one of revelation. It's one of salvation and ultimate redemption. One of the things that people say to me that are renewing or beginning their relationship with Jesus is, Jim, I don't know how to pray. It's been so long. What do I say? What do I do? And my co-author, Dr. Tom Gardner, and I, in this book, because of that request from so many people, at the end of each chapter, we've put an area of reflection, a place for notes, and we put a prayer. And that prayer is important, because for those who have not had a relationship with God, this is all new to them. And so I would like you to join me in this prayer just before we begin the actual journey, that God, you come into my life. Please come into my life. I am sorry that I have ignored you for so long, but I need you in my life. I realize now the emptiness that I have within me. And I want the light within me that Jim describes to be as bright for you as it can possibly be. So Lord, forgive me for the indiscretions I have done. forgive me for ignoring you all this time. Give me a fresh start. Give me peace. Give me the friendship and the love of having you with us. And I tell you that a devout prayer like that, nothing grandiose, just something heartfelt from your inner being, from your source, will be such a blessing to you. It truly will be. But as I keep saying, it must come from a part of you that you literally didn't know existed, the light in you. And so I'm eager to tell you about the rest of the story. There's much more to come. And I think you will be